Hello and welcome to Lesson 3, Animal Studies of Attachment, Konrad Lorenz and Harlow. In this session we're going to look at two really famous and in one of their cases infamous potentially researchers and some of the experiments that they carried out to investigate how animals form attachments. So before we get started, some key terms. The first is the critical period. So this is a window of time in which something, for example, behavior, must develop. And if it doesn't develop within this time, it probably never will. There are many critical periods in biology. One, for example, is binocular vision, which is thought to be around 5 months. So if you don't develop binocular vision, if, for example, you covered up permanently for the 5 years, a child's eye, they would never develop binocular vision. The same goes for attachment. Imprinting is a very specific type of attachment that we see in animals. It's a very rapid process and a readiness to form an attachment with almost the first animal or object that the infant sees. And sexual imprinting, this is a process by which a young animal learns the characteristics of a desirable mate. For example, male zebra finches appear to prefer mates with the appearance of the female bird that rears them. So that's kind of imprinting based on their own mother. And there is some evidence that humans do a version of this, a kind of form of this. So the field is comparative psychology, and essentially it is the scientific study of behavior and mental process of non-human animals, specifically with the intent to apply that knowledge to human behavior. So the first researcher, Konrad Lorenz. Your guide notes has a lot more details, so make sure you've read them. If you haven't read them, pause the video, read them now. Okay, so Konrad Lorenz, 1935, he took two groups of gosling eggs, and one he left with their biological mothers to hatch naturally, and the other half he took and put in an incubator. Now, he then allowed the eggs to hatch and ensured that he was the first large moving object that these little goslings saw. He then marked the goslings with a marker pen, and he rounded them all up and put them in a big container. So the ones that hatched under their mothers and the ones from the incubator, all in one big chamber. He then had his assistant open the door to the chamber, and he observed where these goslings ran. The ones that saw Lorenz first as the first large moving object, they ran straight to him, and the ones that hatched underneath their mothers ran straight to their biological mothers. This suggests that goslings have a form of rapid attachment, we call it imprinting, and that this attachment is innate. However, there are some strengths and limitations to this. So Guiton actually carries out a replication of Lorenz's original study. What he notes is that young leghorn chicks actually imprint on a pair of yellow rubber gloves that were used to feed them. In fact, some of the leghorn chicks tried to mate with the gloves, so there's evidence of imprinting, but also sexual imprinting. And it was believed by Lorenz that imprinting was irreversible. It occurs during the critical period. If you do not imprint within that time, you never do. Well, Guiton disputes that. Guiton found that he could actually reverse the imprinting on the gloves if he ensured that the chicks spent more time with members of their own species. So in other words, the chicks began to relearn normal sexual imprinting and normal sexual behavior. So let's get on to Harlow. Harlow is a very controversial figure, and I've got lots of information there for you to read about him. He's a very interesting guy. He was actually the president of the American Psychological Association, and some of his research is some of the most groundbreaking for its day. Essentially, he took 8 infant rhesus monkeys and placed them in a cage with a wire and a cloth mother. So here's an example of the wire mother. These were surrogate mothers. So these monkeys were separated from birth. They never got to know their biological mother and placed in these cages with these surrogates. A bot was attached in 4 of the cages to the wire mother and in the other 4 to the cloth mother. Harlow then used as his dependent variable the number of hours that the monkeys spent clinging to each of the surrogate mothers. He also recorded the number of hours, or the amount of time I should say, that the monkeys spent crying once the mothers were removed from the cage. So he was actually investigating attachment and separation anxiety. In one condition, Harlow actually scared the monkeys, and he used a robotic, demonic looking object, creature sort of thing, that would scare the monkeys, and he would observe which monkey the infant ran to. And he also observed how the monkeys used the mothers as a safe base. His conclusion was that contact comfort was more important than feeding. Monkeys spent far more time on the cloth mother, the mother that provided comfort, than they did on the wire mother, even when the wire mother had a feeding bottle attached. So he, based on work from Lorenz as well, championed the idea that attachment is innate, is with us obviously from birth, and it has an evolutionary adaptive value. Its purpose is to ensure survival. The goslings imprint on the first large moving thing because that's probably their mother and it's most likely to protect them and so forth. The monkeys imprint on the contact comfort, surrogate, and that provides them with survival benefits. Harlow carried out many variations, and some of these more extreme variations are the reason why he's considered a controversial figure. In one condition, then, monkeys were allowed to engage in a play area. Those monkeys that were placed in this area generally froze and were paralyzed with fear. They couldn't explore, they couldn't pick up the toys or engage or anything like that. However, when the cloth mother was placed in the room with them, the monkeys would expand out. They'd run back to the cloth mother and then to the toys, back to the mother a bit further, each time spreading out, using the mother as a safe base, suggesting that the general orientation of the infant's behaviour was towards the soft mother, the cloth mother. In a slightly more sadistic experiment, Harlow equipped a surrogate mother with a variety of abusive mechanisms. So one surrogate would shoot out hot jets of air, another would poke the monkey with a sharp spike. This was to simulate an abusive parent. Interestingly, in this study, found that the monkeys still came back, no matter how often they were hurt by the surrogate mother. They still come back, and this just shows you how powerful the need for attachment is. And it also explains why often we find in adult relationships that abuse victims will return to their abusers, and this could explain that quite well. In a third variation, the monkey was placed in a wooden box with 2 windows that the monkey could open and look through. One of the windows was facing the cloth mother and the other window was facing the wire mother. Given the choice, the monkeys spent almost all their time looking at the cloth mother and spent very little time looking at the wire mother. In fact, they looked about as much at the wire mother as they did at the cage generally. So this is Harlow's research, really interesting. Conclusions are: attachment's innate, it has survival value, contact comfort is more important than nourishment and feeding. Evaluation though. There's a lot of detail in the guide notes, but the main one is the ethics. The monkeys were physically harmed, they were psychologically harmed, and if this study was going to be carried out today, it would not be allowed. Simply, it would not meet the ethical requirements of the British Psychological Society or the American. And that's because of its ethical failings. However, in a historical context, we can look at this research and say the benefits may have outweighed the harm in terms of what we gained from knowledge of this study. I think there's a strong argument. Now, some of his later research is more questionable when he, for example, forced monkeys to engage in sexual activity with each other in a aggressively forced manner. You can argue what the benefits were, but this early research definitely, I would argue, benefits outweighed the harm. Animal research, there is a limitation. How much can you generalize from an animal study? Yes, monkeys and humans have shared ancestors, but a monkey is not a human, and a human is certainly not a monkey. We have huge capacity for free will and self-direction. We can make choices, we can communicate effectively, we can learn in a multitude of ways. So a degree to which we can say, well, animals seek creature comfort and that's it, and that's attachment. It ignores this huge element of human life, which perhaps monkeys don't have access to. And the practical applications, that actually this research spawned a lot of John Bowlby's research as well, which ultimately led to a change in things like how we care for children in hospitals. If a child has to stay in hospital for a few weeks, it used to be thought the best way to deal with that is to keep them isolated, on a ward so they could get better and recover quicker. We now know that rooming is much more effective for recovery. Put the parents in with the child so they can visit, and hospitals like Great Ormond Street have special facilities where the mother and father can come and stay with the child. There's a bit further reading on imprinting. It introduces some interesting imprinting that occurs in different animal species. Links there, have a look. And as always, if you have any questions, you know where I am. Thank you very much for your time, and I will see you around.